Big dog, right down there.
I don't think I'm going to get any better than that.
Personally, I think spring is the golden period of the year when it comes to carp fishing. You've gone through that long winter period where fish are very dormant, you don't see lots of action, and it's a bit of a slog.
When you come into that spring period, you know that you've got months and months of really exciting fishing ahead of you. And I think for me, that's one of the reasons why I enjoy it so much.
All of a sudden, the days are longer, the fish are more active, they're visiting areas of the lake that they've not been in for the past 6 months. They're a lot more catchable.
The carp haven't been pressured as much over the winter. They're at big weights and they're waking up, and so's the rest of the lake. The leaves are growing on the trees and everything just seems so much more appealing, and it's so much more enjoyable to be out on the bank.
I make sure that I have a lot of free time to put aside for my personal fishing this time of year because the season is just that good.
I met up with young Jacob Worth and we headed to Newdigate Farm, a quiet and secluded day-ticket water where we had a few days of fishing at our disposal. Newdigate is the ideal venue for these early spring days with its shallow margins, overhangs and lily pad line bays. It is also home to a good head of lovely carp that Jacob and I would gladly have in our albums. Jacob and I both love this time of year. The carp are starting to venture out and visit areas of the lake that they haven't visited for the last 6 months, and we can finally get out and chase them again.
At this time of year, observation is key. The carp are becoming more and more active and are starting to move around the lake again. I will always spend the early stages of a session scanning the water in the hopes that the carp give away their location. And on this occasion, they did just that. I noticed a very subtle show out in the lake on the windward bank. So I grabbed my gear and hot-footed straight to that side of the lake. I don't want to make too much disturbance early on, leading around, finding spots. So in this situation, a light lead, a relatively long hook length, and a single balanced wafter is all that's needed to ensure that I'm presenting well. I scatter a few scope squid half baits in and around the area just to try and trigger the fish into feeding. The plan was to spend a few hours in this swim. I had a good vantage point across the rest of the lake, so I was watching the water and looking for potential opportunities for later on in the session.
I mix up a small bucket of bait and head out to explore the lake, checking margins and climbing trees, looking for any likely looking areas or signs of carp. This time of year, the temperature starts to rise, and with that, the carp start to actively seek out the warmer water. This tends to be the shallow margins and shallow corners of the lake. The carp like to patrol these areas, resting up in snags, weed beds, and pads along the way. For this reason, these are the areas I concentrate on when priming spots. I lap and lap the lake relentlessly, checking the spots and looking for any possible opportunity. My baited areas, they may only be 2 or 3 areas around the lake, are quiet corners or less fish swims, and they offer me a potential chance throughout the session. Frequently checking these areas, I like to keep on my toes, travel light, and look for any early opportunity.
One of the most important things for me in fishing is travelling light, and even more so in the spring. The carp are just waking up. They're often covering a lot of the parts of the lake that they haven't ventured throughout the winter months, so you need to be active.
Being able to react to situations at the drop of a hat is so important in spring. It's something that I really take into account in my angling, not just in spring, to be fair, all year round, but it really becomes so much more important at this time of year. This is why I use a lot of items from the dwarf range, those short rods, those little backpacks, that sling mount where I can just throw everything in. It allows me to pack up, set down in a matter of minutes. If the situation changes, the weather changes, a fish shows, I'm on it in an instant. And if I wasn't using some of those items in my tackle, perhaps I'd be missing out on opportunities, especially at this time of year.
When we arrived at the lake, I didn't really know what to expect. I spent most of my time fishing quiet venues, and when I heard it was a day ticket, days only, I did think it was going to be pretty difficult. It wasn't super hot. We sort of arrived at the lake, did a lap each, looking around for carp, didn't see anything. There looked like a few likely areas that the fish might visit, so we made loads of plans between me and Henry to bait a few spots and return in a few hours. But the carp weren't playing ball, and we Quickly found out that the majority of the fish were in the outer bounds, so I mustered up a plan and figured out the best way possible for me to get one of those carp, and that was baiting in and around the outer bounds area, trying to draw the fish out. On the first day, I did see a couple of fish making their way in and out, and they were actually dropping down and feeding right under the bridge, so it was pretty simple. All I had to do was stay really quiet and lower a rig right in without the carp seeing me. I managed to do that, and I caught a really cool common. It was my first carp out of this venue, and what a carp it was. Really nice, sort of long torpedo common, lovely colour to it. And shortly after, Henry came round. It was only fair. It was completely dead on the other end of the lake, and I let him sort of have a go as more and more fish started to come around that channel. He then caught himself a common, and we were able to start this few days fishing with a brace of carp.
Got to thank Jacob a lot for this, letting me put a rod on his spot where he saw a lot of the fish showing. I really didn't think it was going to happen today, but we persevered. We both got ridiculously cool carp. Yours, mate, is just another level.
He's a dark one, isn't he? Can't complain with that for the first fish from the venue.
We've still got about half hour left, haven't we?
Yeah, you never know, and then 2 more days to go at them, so yeah, what a result, mate. First session together, brace of commons, nearly £30 Henry's one, so to be fair, mine's solid as a rock, probably just under, maybe 28, but you can't ask for more than that on the first day.
I like to use a lot of particle in spring, and the reason is because of the number of naturals in the lake. The lake's become alive once again. Those natural larders of food have blossomed and the carp really nail them, to the point where it's quite hard to get them off of that and onto traditional carp fishing baits like boilie and pellet. Think of those water snails that you come across in the margins sometimes. When the carp are feeding on them, they're getting that popping, that crunching. It's the same sort of thing when they're feeding on hemp or those little seeds. They're breaking that outer, unleashing all that goodness with them. It's exactly the same feeding experience for them, and it's quite easy to get them onto that as opposed to getting them onto boilies or pellets when they're really honed in on those naturals.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to bait in the outer bounds, through the channel and around this tree area in this little bay here, and I'm going to put out the mix that I've been making over the last couple of days. It's Scopex squid flake and sort of crushed down boilies, and the larger pulses, and a little bit of hemp in there as well. And the reason for not putting straight boilies is because I've got a pretty good feeling, based off what I've seen, that the carp are holding up in there in the day. When there's no lines in the water, when there's no pressure, the fish are coming into here at night time. So I want to stop them in the tracks along this bay and keep them feeding for a long period of time. So the small food items, crushed bit of boilie, little bits of pulses and stuff, hopefully will hold the fish here. And when I turn up in the morning, I'll see straight away signs of carp and be able to get that quick bite.
Those little morsels of food really hone them in on the spot. They're sifting through it, they get obsessed with that area to the point where they become very easy to trip up. That's the state you want to get a feeding carp into. They're so obsessed with the spot and feeding on it, they become easy to trip up on a rig and a hook bait.
Well, as you can hear, I'm finally into a fish. Today's been so quiet. I've not recast, wanted to stay as quiet as possible. Just kept looking over this little channel, and that rod that I placed on the edge of that tree has ripped off. Get in! That, me and Henry were literally just saying, today's been so slow. He's went over to the other side, chucked out singles in the middle, and I just sat on my hands. There's nothing else I can do. So many carp in the out of bounds. 3 hours left and we pulled it off.
That's ridiculous, that. Have a look at that.
Oh, look at the state of that carp.
That is mad, isn't it?
Unbelievable, mate.
The sports scale's
It's 30 pounder.
34.
Honestly, these are Rubens, mate. Sports scale by Ruben Heaton.
Bang ahead.
Sick carp. Ridiculous. I didn't think we were going to catch one that nice. He's done all right, isn't he?
That is unbelievable. Definitely up there. Well, no, not up there. That is my favourite day ticket carp that I've ever caught. Ridiculous 30-pound mirror, massive apple slice scales, perfect shape like a torpedo. There's not much more I can say really, is there? That is the reason why we came to this venue. Such a sick carp. I'm not only trying to draw the fish out of an area, but I'm also trying to hold the fish, which means that I'm using really small food items. So the rig that I've gone for is kind of a happy medium. The fish are moving a little bit, sort of finding the bait, coming back for it, and I've put a little pink trimmed down wafter. So my thought is, even if there is loads of bait everywhere, they home in on the colour, which means as the fish comes down, it sucks in that balanced rig. I've got a little bit of length for it to lift up into the fish's mouth, but it's also short enough to come straight into contact with the lead.
There we go, that's the rig that I've been dropping with the baiting pole. I've been using it in the edge and now I'm going to cast it out there. It's a super versatile Ronnie claw rig. I use it for pretty much all my pop-up fishing and that's what we're using it for now. Got for a very bright pink pop-up. It's that time of year, it's spring. There's not a huge number of fish out there. I'm hoping that one or two pass through. They see that bright pop-up, drop down, suck it in, game on. I love fishing with pop-ups in spring because it lends itself to that adaptive, reactive approach that is crucial in springtime. I can go from fishing in the edge like I did earlier in the session to then casting singles out into the lake where I'm not so sure what the bottom's like, but I don't want to find a spot and risk spooking the fish. I just want to put out a nice long boom with a pop-up on. I know it's going to be presented well, and this is why I often go for pop-ups at this time of year.
The bay had been quiet for the majority of the day, so I headed round to see Jacob. From this end, I had a much better view of the open water. I saw a carp show within range, so I cast 2 singles into the area.
Sometimes when you don't have much to go on, the best thing to do, especially this time of year, is just put a bright single out there with that bit of colour, a fish moving through, because they do move around a lot in spring. They're exploring those new areas where they've not been for the last 6 months. And as they pass over that bright hook bait, you've got a chance.
Oh, look at that.
Mega one.
Another scaly one.
Like a smaller version of your one.
There she goes. There she goes.
Yes! That'll do, man.
Yes,
That'll do.
mate.
Oh, look at that.
You've definitely earned that. One show on
Mate,
it.
it's look just like yours.
Literally.
Just smaller. An old relic of a mirror. Just look at the scales, how dark it is. Ridiculous carp. We've done all right with the standard fish we caught, haven't we, Jacob?
Mate, I actually can't believe it, honestly. When you said we were going to a days-only day ticket venue, I'll be honest, I was a little bit sceptical. But the fish in here, I said it with mine yesterday, like, just the best day ticket carp I've seen, mate. And no one's even fishing here, it's been wicked. I reckon we definitely make this a theme. Come back next year, can't we?
Come back next
week.
That's
it. Such a sick fish, mate.
This session is a perfect example of that adaptability you need in your spring angling. We started off focused so much on the edge, thinking we'd find them in those edge spots. And although we did see a few to start with in the edge, as that weather sort of turned for the worse, they definitely pushed away from those edge spots, moved back into the out of bounds, and then it was a case of catching them on little traps in that area where they're passing through. It's about being adaptive. It's not going with that one idea of this is a spring tactic, this is what will do the best in spring, so I'm going to fish this all spring. It's being adaptive on every single given day to what the weather conditions want and what the carp want.